here goes my first attempt at trying to show how I paint on video. Now, if you can see, this board's already prepared. There is a design on there. You can just about see the masking fluids. It's all dry, so it goes yellower when it's dry. So if I place that down there, make sure it's within the camera shot. And then I start off with a sponge, a good old-fashioned natural sponge, and very lightly I wet the whole paper. Now, what this is a street scene with an underground. Now I have my reference picture, but you can't see that because it's out of shot. I'm going to choose a few colours. Normally when I do a watercolour wash, I start off with a few colours because I find if I use too many, it turns into mud, and that's the last thing I want. I just realised this a bit because they're annoying me. Right, so I am going to use watercolour paints, a very little bit of cerulean blue because there's not a lot of sky. It's mainly going to be brown in the dark, probably, which colour shall I use? I think I will use an ochre for the brownish areas because they're quite light brown in the light. I can always make things darker, but it's difficult to actually lighten them up once you've got the colour on. So I shall do that, and if I can find my indigo, I shall use a little bit of indigo for the darker areas, but I may well use some other colours. So I've got my paints in there. Hopefully you can see them. Yep, that's my colours in there. And now I don't use small brushes. I don't know the meaning of the word small brushes. That's the sort of size brush I use. Those two are probably my favourites, but I've got some slightly smaller ones as this is quite a tiny picture. But if you're doing washes, the last thing you want is to be using tiny brushes, because you want to get, for this technique, you need to get the watercolour on as fast as you can. And if you spend too long over it, you will lose some of the texture you get with using the cling film. So, say this is very fast. These are actually too big for even for me for this one, but I'm not too precious about where it goes. It goes everywhere, and I try not to use too much, because if I use too many colours, I end up with a big mess. Now that's gone really dark there. It's possibly a little too